Hello and welcome back to another Sports Playground video. And today I will be going over my mock draft for the 2022 NFL first round of the draft. So yeah, let's hop right into it with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Pick number one, they will be taking defensive end from Michigan, Aiden Hutchinson. A lot of people recently have been hyping up a possible Trayvon Walker, Georgia defensive end, going first overall, and I just don't see that hype. This is more based on, who I think is the better player for this specific one. Other ones, maybe not. Maybe it's more of a team fit, but I've heard, and plenty of people have heard, that owner Shad Khan, owner of the Jaguars, really likes Aiden Hutchinson a lot more than he likes Trayvon Walker, and I'm with him. Aiden Hutchinson first overall. Now, second overall, that's where I have defensive end Trayvon Walker from Georgia. He has skyrocketed up boards recently. The Lions really need pretty much anything, and I think defensive end is definitely a good place to start if you want to build a good team. You see what the 49ers did a couple of years ago. They can get all the way to the Super Bowl on the back of a bunch of first-round defensive linemen, and it's a good way to build a team, and I think that's where the Lions should really start. And next up, we have the Houston Texans. They will be taking Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon, speedy edge rusher, great player. I'm not sure how well he'll actually do in the league, but that's something for me to get into another day. I think is a good fit. They also need anything defensive line minded or really just defensive minded, and that's the spot for them. And number 4, I have the Jets taking Cincinnati corner Sauce Gardner. Unbelievable player. Never gave up a touchdown in 4 years at Cincinnati. Played a ridiculous amount of snaps and just an unbelievable player. Jets need a second, or really a first corner, honestly. They need anything they can get outside in the secondary, and that's a great place to start. I think he could be a star from day one. Yes, and then moving on to number 5, we have the Giants. New York Giants take offensive tackle out of Alabama, Evan Neal. Evan Neal is by far the best offensive lineman in this class, and offensive line is something that the Giants have been searching for years. They were able to hit on Andrew Thomas after a rough year 1 for him, but they still need someone to go opposite of him, and I think Evan Neal is obviously the place to go. And yeah, that seems like a pretty clear pick to me. Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers taking the first quarterback off the board, Kenny Pickett, out of Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett appears to be the most pro-ready player in this draft, or pro-ready quarterback, may I say. he, assuming that he goes to the plan of the team that takes him, which I think will be the Panthers, he should be able to just go out on the field as soon as possible. But we've seen players like that not work out in the past with someone like Mitch Trubisky. But we'll see how it goes. I think that that's almost surely where Kenny Pickett ends up. Next up, number 7, again, we have the Giants. This time, the Giants are going to pick Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame. Some people say that he's probably the best player in this draft, and I agree. It's just that safety is in a very premium position, and that's why they don't normally go number 1, especially when you have a position like defensive end, which is absolutely a premium. So, Giants obviously need secondary and stuff, so he's the right guy to solve that problem if Sauce Gardner isn't on the board, which he will not be. Next up on this list, we have the Atlanta Falcons, and I have the 4th defensive end off the board, and that's George Karlaftis out of Purdue. Also, the Falcons had one of the most ridiculous offensive line, or defensive line, problems in the league last year. They could not seem to find anybody who could get through an offensive lineman, no matter how bad or good they were. They were playing Steven Means, and he was doing absolutely nothing. They were last in the league in sacks by far, and I think starting with a George Karlaftis could really boost their defense, or at least that's what they hope. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks will be selecting a Derek Stingley. Derek Stingley is a corner, LSU. Coming into this college football season, many people said he was the best player in college football, and I can't necessarily say that they were extremely wrong. Derek Stingley is an incredible lockdown corner, and both of these top 2 corners are great. Seahawks really have not had a good defense in years, ever since they made the Super Bowl a while ago now. They haven't really had a great defense, and I think you gotta rebuild from the back, because that's how Pete Carroll always liked it. So that's where they're gonna start with that. And next up, we have the Jets again. The Jets are going to select wide receiver Jameson Williams out of Alabama. It's either Olave or him, I think, will probably go as the first receiver off the board. But I think that it'll be Williams, barring a big trade for Deebo Samuel or something like that. Jameson Williams is an incredible player. Alabama is an incredible wide receiver factory, really. Every year there's 1 to 2 that come out and they're immediate stars. You saw Devontae Smith, you saw Jalen Waddle. These past 2 years, you've seen Amari Cooper, we've seen Julio Jones, all sorts of incredible players out of Alabama. And yeah, next up we have the Washington Commanders, and I have them selecting Devin Lloyd out of Utah, the linebacker. They also seem to be struggling in that area. They can't really. They have some first round picks up front, and they have a solid secondary in the back, but they need something to fill in the middle. And that's their plan here when they take Devin Lloyd. Next up, we have the Vikings with another defensive end. They just fly off the board, and this time it's Jermaine Johnson out of FSU. Um, the Vikings, they're an interesting team. I'm not really. They might need a wide receiver, sure, but I don't think it's a main need. They've had problems. They can't put it together, and having a rock on the front four is always a good thing to start with, and Jermaine Johnson could bring that for them. And next up, we have our first trade. This would be the slot for the Houston Texans at 13, but I have them making a trade with the Eagles um, from number 15 up to number 13. Now, this is the way that these mock drafts work is I get to pick right, or I get to say I got the pick right, assuming the team selects the player I said they would select. So I have the Eagles in this case selecting Nakobe Dean, linebacker out of Georgia. Um, he's a great player. The Eagles haven't really drafted a linebacker in the top 4 rounds in a really long time. I think the last one may have been Jordan Hicks, and if it wasn't Jordan Hicks, then it might have been Trent Cole, if anybody knows who that is, because I do. They really need one. They've been needing one for years. Alex Singleton isn't cutting it. Nate Gary isn't cutting it. And yeah, this is just a huge help to them, assuming they would take him. And next up, we have the Ravens. They will select Jordan Davis. I feel like the Ravens get treated with a lot more respect on defense than they really deserve. Their secondary is great, especially Marlon Humphrey. He's incredible, but really the defensive line isn't quite there as much as people think. And having a big, really, Jordan Davis is incredible, a great athlete for someone his size, and he could be revolutionary. You don't just get someone his size, he can be a rock up front if the Ravens were to take him at number 14. Next up, I have the Texans, number 15. They're going to be taking safety Dax Hill out of Michigan. Dax is, like I said, Texans really, they just have to be searching for defense before anything. It was definitely a struggle trying to find that for them in these past few years, but this is another good pick for them. Next up, Saints at 16, they will select wide receiver Drake London out of USC. They had absolutely nothing at wide receiver this past season, and Drake London could be huge for them. They absolutely need someone like him. And next up after that, we have the Chargers the Chargers, they will be selecting corner Trent McDuffie. The Chargers also have had their struggles on defense in these past few years. They couldn't get a stop at all late in the season, or really at all during the season, it felt like, for weeks. And they did just sign star free agent J.C. Jackson, and drafting Trent McDuffie to go on the opposite side of him could be a big help to a struggling secondary, something that has struggled for years for them. And next up, we have the Eagles. I have them selecting Chris Olave out of Ohio State. Chris is, like I said earlier, it's either him or not Garrett Wilson. Jameson Williams are the top two in this draft at wide receiver, and there's lots of good ones. I just really think that he could be a huge add for them at this spot. They really need another wide receiver. Devontae Smith's great, but they need a second now. And next up, Saints will be selecting wide receiver Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, yeah, also from Ohio State, just like Olave, will be pairing with fellow freshman, or not freshman, rookie Drake London on the Saints. They need wide receiver help bad, and I assume Michael Thomas is coming back this year, but maybe not. Haven't heard anything from him in what feels like 3 years, but whatever. He's there, and yeah, I think this is a spot. They really need wide receiver, and the Saints are a team that likes to go all in, so that's what they're planning to do. Next up, Steelers. They pick quarterback Malik Willis. This is seemed to be what looks like their fit for this draft all mock draft season. It's been Steelers take Malik Willis all the time, no matter what it takes.